we've been spending too much time focusing on the expat perspective, I think. So today we're going to get back into what the locals in these countries think with a video entitled, "This is How the Chinese See America." It's a shorter one today, but it should be amusing. But before we jump into that, it is sword sharing time. I have another one today. This is a Japanese tanto. Really hard to maintain your hardware when you live thousands of miles away most of the time. Anyway, the link, as usual, is going to be right up there. So you can, for down there, really. Now, this one is even older than the previous one I did. This one goes back to about 2017, so it predates my return. I think I can guess what's going to show up in it, though, because I've kind of done this video myself. I did my own interview series, A Crisis of Harmony. If you haven't seen it, there's the link. Please watch. I spent a month working on this thing. But for now, we're going to see what it was that the Chinese thought of this country before the pandemic hit, and their first thought is, why don't those idiots want to wear masks? Which is what it would be like if they did it today. But let's begin now.
Hey everybody, it's Steve from Asian Boss. From the Western perspective, whenever you think about Asia, the country that inevitably pops up is China, which many say will surpass America as their #1 economy in the not too distant future. But for such a big country, we rarely get the opportunity to hear directly from ordinary Chinese people on many issues. So in this video, we're gonna ask the Chinese how they feel about the United States, especially since the tensions between these two superpowers seem to be on the rise. For more, let's go to Sherry, our Asian Boss reporter in Shanghai.
Just a point, this would have been not quite a high watermark for Sino-American tensions, because that would be after 2020. But things were getting worse. Again, this is all in the Crisis of Harmony, which you should have watched by now. But for a long time, we actually, if not necessarily between the governments, the people, the Chinese and American people actually got along pretty well. Then that kind of started to change in the mid-2010s, and these days it's really, really bad. So, continuing.
美国，你脑海里面第一个反应出来是什么样的形象呢？
留学，
对，小品。
美国篮球吧，
嘻哈，
自由，然后比较具有想象力、创造力的一个国家吧。
比较民主，还有就是美国总统只要有钱就可以当了。
印象不好。
Okay. I somehow before I watched this, I didn't anticipate we're going to get a lot of Trump jokes in this, aren't we? So that was something I heard a lot of when I first went over there, but especially when I brought my parents over to visit, everyone was asking, that would have been when the election was coming up, and everyone was asking who you're going to vote for. Nobody, no foreigner in that country would admit to voting for Trump. Nobody, even the Republicans, even the ones who registered Republicans, lied about who they voted for. I'm going to avoid any more comments about this, but it's definitely going to come up because 2017.
非常差，对，不是我们东方人的地方。
你觉得美国这个国家给你带来个什么样子的感觉？这个感觉是怎么会形成的呢？
感觉文化比较自由一点吧，可能每个人有好的创意都会拿出来分享给大家。在中国可能大家都比较不太愿意去交流，
思想比较奔放。还有就是像这种娱乐体育方面发展的也比较好，什么好莱坞啊、NBA 啊。穿的话应该就科技方面嘛，因为我们可能身边用的最多的，比如说手机方面嘛，就大家可能用 iPhone 比较多嘛。
太霸权了吧，强加自己的观念给人家身上。
我觉得这个国家对于世界的贡献可以说是不可忽略的，又或者说是可以起到引导作用，是在科技、政治还有这个文化方面。
你如果有机会去美国学习、工作、生活的话，你会去吗？
待过啊，我就是不喜欢啊，难受啊。
会啊，有机会当然会去啊。
我只会去旅游吧。
我觉得我应该不会。
不喜欢的可能就是你也知道，刚发生的枪击什么的，
里面人也。
This is the other thing we're going to be hearing a lot about. The Chinese media heavily reports on violence. You may remember this. There was an incident. God, when was this? This would have been 2019, I think, where a Chinese national. Well, it happened more than once. There was one specific one where a Chinese national was shot to death by. God, I remember it was his roommate or it was a classmate. There was another incident where another Chinese national, a woman who was also a college student, was abducted and later killed. And the official state press over there heavily reports this kind of stuff. There's definitely a propaganda angle to it. It does tend to give people in that part of the world an impression that it's more dangerous here than it really is. Although, given that China's crime rate is absurdly low, it is accurate. It is absolutely accurate. Continuing.
比较 nice 的，蛮好的。然后就是唯一我就觉得可能晚上的治安各方面还是有一点点小小的缺陷吧。
你觉得美国安全吗？
就最近的来说，应该是负面新闻比较多嘛，应该不是非常安全。
我觉得不能单纯的看一些枪击案就觉得不安全，我觉得总体上看应该是安全的吧。
我觉得没有中国治安好。
美国从以前到现在没有安全，它的种族问题从来没有解决过，只要讲解决，从来不可能解决过它的枪支泛滥问题。
身边有朋友他去过美国，或者说在那边学习，他们觉得还好。但是你看电视上、新闻上，可能又会充斥着各种枪击案、各种谋杀案这种东西，所以说，我也不会觉得说怎么样。
请你评价一下特朗普，
他比较维护自己的国家内，
Yeah, here we go.
就是国内的那些民众吧，就是他。
I'm gonna try to cut this off up front because I want to see if anyone says anything like this. I had a taxi driver once said that Trump was good for China because he was screwing up all the American trade relations and opening up opportunities for them. Let's see if that comes up here.
可能比较排斥一些就是外来的一些人。
特朗普可能给我的印象，我觉得他还是一个蛮有个性的一个人呢。就是有一种怎么说呢？说话还是比较大嘴巴一点的。
我觉得他比较专制，就是可能是因为他以前当地产大亨习惯，然后反正就是他就是那种比较特立独行的那种感觉。
可能以他商人就是多年来从商的这种性格，可能因为看他新闻嘛，他执行力上面应该比较强。因为看他那时候刚刚上台的时候，不是签署了好多新的那种法规了、条约了什么的，执行力还比较强。但是就可能做事比较自我吧，就是因为他共和党的吧，就比较代表中高级阶级的人嘛，就可能还是以这种稍富有的人的那个利益为主吧。
特朗普说中国应该制裁朝鲜，
Yeah.
你觉得这个怎么想？
我觉得这也不是说中国去制裁朝鲜，因为现在毕竟对吧，有联合国嘛。
我觉得如果讲到东西方，最主要一个问题还是要沟通嘛，因为彼此的不了解。对，把事情看得太单纯了。
中国有自己的立场，这个不会受别人左右吧。
我觉得美国和朝鲜玩的可。
This is a big point of contention in China. There is this understanding that the American government mostly is trying to preach politics to them and trying to pressure them into doing things and basically trying to run the country for them, which it doesn't matter what I say. Whoever you are watching this, as soon as I uttered those words, you had your mind made up. I'm not going to try to push you one way or another. And my own opinion on that subject is complicated. It would take me 10 minutes to explain it. Nobody wants to hear that. Not what the video's about. Let's just keep going.
我觉得美国和朝鲜玩的可好了，就是我觉得只是假借这个名头而已，想要就是在核问题方面，就是他想就是自己可以控制别人。然后
就我作为一个中国人的立场上来讲呢，他的这番话吧，我觉得说是废话，因为中国肯定是在做着这方面的努力，只是大家出于各个国家对于所谓的这种利益的诉求不同而做出来的努力，可能不见得是他想要的。
你认为当前中国的经济已经超越了美国吗？然后还是没有？
没有呀，
这个差距我不知道。
Oh, okay. So, obviously all of you have heard the same news that I have, but my guess is most of the people they talk to are not going to say that the PRC is economically stronger in the U.S. Despite a lot of national pride, we saw a little bit of this earlier, you're going to hear a lot of people talking about American technology, American medicine, education. I've heard several people mention that. And because of this, there is an understanding that China is improving fast, but they're not really that close to catching us. It'll be interesting to see if anybody disagrees in this coming section, because I've really never heard anyone, no matter what walk of life they're from, say that they think China's ahead of the U.S.
超过美国。
我觉得并没有，因为中国贫富差距太大了。但是
That's what I'm
美国的话
expecting
就
to hear.
比较平均一点。
从老百姓的生活方面，的确是有很大的改善，但是你说要超越美国的话，可能还有一点距离吧。
首先，我觉得上海挺好的呀。然后，要是每个地方都能像上海一样，那我觉得，已经算是超越了吧。
那你认为当前中国的军事力量和美国相比是如何呢？
这要看真的打起来那才知道。
相去甚远呀。
这个问题问的，我相信我们祖国。
中国的经费投入可能只是，我也不知道这个具体数字啊，肯定没有美国多，我觉得。
觉得在什么情况下中美两国会面临军事上的冲突？
我觉得应该不会。
哪个国家领导人头脑发热一下，那就打起来了。
2017 remember？
但我觉得一般来说，美国人并不想和你打起来。
美国常常要指责说中国国内没有民主，你觉得没有自由？你觉得
？So I'm going to point out there, I found a couple videos that I've thought about using for this, where they ask Chinese people what democracy means to them, because I've previously commented how the American concept of democracy is very limited. Honestly, a lot of people in that country, because there is some amount of local representation, they will say it is a democracy. And I've had other people, and it'll be interesting to see if this comes up, who say that they wouldn't want to have an elected president because then they basically have to pay more attention to the process. And a lot of them, not a lot of them, I have had individuals say that they don't feel that they themselves would be qualified to make a decision like that. So really, we're talking to about, 6 to 8 people here. I could see each and every one of them giving a completely different answer, but let's see what we actually get.
对于这个你有什么想法？
先让我能用 WhatsApp
的再说。中国现在
exactly.
还是挺民主的，对，还是挺自由的。
当然，我可能觉得说，自由的话都还是有了。但是民主的话，可能不像美国那样去开放。
Probably the most common
美国的话，它将这个言论自由、出版自由，还有各种自由，它都是写进它的宪法里的。而中国它需要这样一个逐步，可以说是进化的一个过程吧。
现在我看到的中国，它走得非常的健全、稳定，这是好事。那慢慢的，像你们年轻人会要求的更多。那我觉得自由开放这是必然。
Thanks, Sherry. We're trying to bring you the most authentic perspectives on the latest news and cultural trends from Asia. And we'll soon have a wider network of reporters from more Asian countries. So be sure to subscribe to Asian Boss and share your opinions with other members of our community in the comments below. At the very least, just listen to what other people have to say. We really need that right now. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.
You very much should listen to what people in other countries have to say. Americans have a hard time doing that, even the ones who think that they're really aware and open-minded. As a people, we really do talk down to the entire world, and it's a problem. So, this was about what I was expecting. I think this was focused mostly on governments. Now, which makes sense, because they asked them, what do you think about America, not Americans? That would create a completely different outcome. There was a little bit of talk there at the beginning that I didn't interrupt about open-mindedness and openness, and I'll probably end up getting to that later on if I can find a video talking about. I've seen a few on both Chinese and Koreans and their opinions on the foreigners living in their countries, so that's something we could talk about when we get to one of those. But by and large, this is pretty representative of what you're going to see if you ask people in that country. about things like geopolitics or government types. Pretty standard stuff. It's about, I can't exactly say I would have called it. I guess I did a little bit. That's up to you since I tried to do that several times. But anyway, that is the video for today. A little bit shorter on this one. So we will see when I see you next. Remember to like, follow, comment, all that garbage. And until next time, goodbye.